Let me start with a question that might surprise you. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to live well into their 90s or even 100? Sharp minds, steady energy, strong bodies, and yet they're not following some complicated biohacking routine or expensive supplement stack. They're not counting every calorie. They're not doing extreme diets. And they're definitely not obsessing over every health trend. But they are doing something very consistent. They eat a small group of very specific foods every single day. And here's what's fascinating, and it's probably not the foods you've been told are healthy. Not low-fat cereal, not protein bars, not even most packaged superfoods. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Longevity isn't controlled by calories alone. It's controlled by metabolism, your insulin levels, your liver function, your inflammation load, your mitochondrial energy production. Because if those systems stay stable, your body doesn't age quickly. But if they're constantly spiking, high insulin, high sugar, chronic inflammation, you accelerate aging at the cellular level. Think of it like this. If your metabolism is a campfire, the wrong foods dump gasoline on it, the right foods add slow, steady logs. One burns out fast, the other burns for decades. Today, I'm going to walk you through the exact foods, and more importantly, the physiology behind them, that research consistently associates with longer lifespans, lower disease risk, better brain function, and healthier body composition. Not trendy, not extreme, just simple daily inputs that tell your body, repair, don't decay. And by the end of this video, you'll have a clear, practical blueprint you can start using immediately. If you're serious about living longer and feeling better while you age, this one matters. Let's break it down step by step. Here's what we need to understand right away. Your lifespan isn't determined entirely by how many candles are on your birthday cake. It's governed by what's happening at the level of your cells every day. And the biggest driver of that cellular aging process is insulin. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of insulin as a traffic cop at a busy intersection inside your body. When sugar comes into your bloodstream after a meal, insulin signals your cells to take it up and either use it for energy or store it for later. That's normal and healthy. But when the traffic cop gets overwhelmed, day in, day out, because you're repeatedly spiking your blood sugar, two critical problems begin. Cells become desensitized to insulin. This is insulin resistance. More sugar is shunted into fat storage and inflammation pathways. That's not aging gracefully. That's aging fast. Here's what the research shows. A large, long-term nutrition study following more than 100,000 people found that diets high in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and minimal processed foods were associated with an 18 to 24% lower risk of early death. This effect held across different diet patterns that all minimize blood sugar swings and chronic metabolic stress. Here's the physiology behind it. Chronically high blood sugar accelerates the formation of advanced glycation end products, AGEs. Sticky molecules that damage proteins and DNA, impair repair mechanisms, and speed up aging on a molecular level. Insulin resistance also forces your liver to work overtime, and the liver is a primary organ for detoxification, fat metabolism, and hormone regulation. So if longevity is your goal, here's one simple and powerful daily shift. Eat foods that keep your blood sugar stable, not spiky. Real-world daily protocol. Start your day with fiber first. A bowl of steel-cut oats or high-fiber legumes slows glucose absorption and feeds your gut bacteria, which also helps insulin sensitivity. Include a source of healthy fats with carbs. Nuts, seeds, and olive oil buffer the glucose response in the gut, reducing insulin demand. Minimize high glycemic foods. Avoid white bread, sugary snacks, and juices, all of which act like gasoline on that metabolic fire. Daily pattern matters. Choose meals that include a balance of plant fiber, protein, and healthy fats so your traffic cop, insulin, never gets overwhelmed. And most importantly, if this insight is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day to help you optimize your metabolism naturally. Because when you treat the root cause, blood sugar and insulin, you not only slow aging, you also improve energy, mood, focus, and fat loss. Let's move on to the next piece of the longevity puzzle. Now that we've stabilized insulin, we need to talk about the second major aging trigger most people completely miss. And it's quieter, it's slower, but it's just as destructive. Chronic low-grade inflammation. Not the kind you feel when you sprain your ankle. I'm talking about the silent, invisible, cellular inflammation happening inside your arteries, your brain, and your joints every single day. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Inflammation is supposed to be temporary. You get injured, inflammation turns on, you heal, it turns off. But modern diets keep it permanently switched on. Refined oils, processed sugar, ultra-processed snacks, industrial seed oils. These foods create oxidative stress, which damages cells, and your immune system responds as if you're constantly under attack. Now imagine that happening for 30 years straight. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of inflammation like rust forming on metal. A little rust? Not a problem. But constant moisture and oxygen? Eventually the structure weakens and breaks. That's exactly what chronic inflammation does to your arteries, brain cells, and mitochondria. It's one of the strongest predictors of heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, joint degeneration, accelerated aging overall. What the research shows is really compelling. Scientists at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health have repeatedly observed that diets rich in anti-inflammatory foods, especially olive oil, fatty fish, leafy greens, berries, and nuts, are associated with significantly lower inflammatory markers like CRP and IL-6 and lower all-cause mortality. So again, we don't guess. We follow physiology. If inflammation speeds aging, then daily anti-inflammatory foods slow it. Here's your simple, practical protocol. Think of this as your daily repair plate. Every day, aim for a handful of leafy greens. Spinach, arugula, kale, loaded with polyphenols and magnesium that calm inflammatory pathways. Omega-3 fats, wild salmon, sardines, or chia seeds. These directly lower inflammatory cytokines and improve cell membrane health. Extra virgin olive oil, 2 tablespoons daily, rich in oleocanthal, a compound that acts similarly to natural ibuprofen. Colorful plants, blueberries, turmeric, ginger, green tea, these neutralize free radicals before they damage your DNA. Notice something important. None of this is exotic, these are normal foods, but eaten consistently, they send your immune system the message, we're safe, stand down, repair mode. And when inflammation drops, something amazing happens. Energy goes up, pain goes down, brain clarity improves, aging slows. This is why the longest-lived populations don't just eat less. They eat anti-inflammatory by default. Next, we're going to talk about something even more surprising. How the bacteria in your gut might matter more than the food itself. Now, this next piece is where longevity science gets really interesting, and honestly, most people completely overlook it, because you might think, if I eat healthy food, that's enough. But here's what's really going on inside your body. It's not just what you eat, it's what your gut bacteria turn that food into. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your gut microbiome like a chemical factory. Every bite of food goes into the factory, and your bacteria decide, do we turn this into anti-inflammatory compounds or toxic byproducts? Do we improve insulin sensitivity or increase fat storage? Do we protect the brain or accelerate degeneration? Same food, different output, depending on the bacteria living inside you. And this isn't theoretical. What the research shows is incredibly clear. Studies supported by the National Institutes of Health have linked greater gut microbial diversity with lower inflammation, better metabolic health, stronger immunity, and longer lifespan. In contrast, low diversity, which is common with processed food diets, is associated with obesity, diabetes, autoimmune disease, and faster aging. Here's why physiologically, healthy gut bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids, especially something called butyrate. Butyrate does 3 powerful things: reduces inflammation, improves insulin sensitivity, strengthens the gut lining, preventing leaky gut toxins from entering your bloodstream. So, if insulin control is your first longevity lever and inflammation is the second, your microbiome controls both. It's upstream of everything. Now, here's the beautiful part. You don't need probiotics or fancy powders to fix this. You fix it with food, daily protocol, simple and repeatable. Fiber first every day. Beans, lentils, oats, vegetables. These are literally fertilizer for good bacteria. Fermented foods, daily, sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, yogurt. These directly introduce beneficial microbes. Polyphenol-rich plants, berries, green tea, cocoa, herbs. These selectively feed healthy strains. Remove the disruptors, artificial sweeteners, ultra-processed foods, excessive alcohol. These kill microbial diversity. Here's an easy rule I give patients. Aim for 30 different plant foods per week, not per day, per week. That variety alone dramatically improves gut diversity. And if this breakdown is helping you think about food differently, not as calories but as signals, consider subscribing. I share content like this every day to help you take control of your health naturally, because when your gut is healthy, your hormones stabilize, your cravings drop, your brain sharpens, and your body shifts into repair mode automatically. Next, we're going to zoom even deeper, down to the level of your mitochondria, the tiny energy engines that literally determine how fast you age. Now let's zoom in even deeper, because if insulin is the master switch and inflammation and gut health set the environment, there's one more level that ultimately determines whether you feel 40 at 70 or 70 at 40, and that's your mitochondria. These are the tiny energy factories inside every single cell. And here's the key idea. You don't age because time passes. You age because your mitochondria lose energy output. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine every cell in your body is a city. Your mitochondria are the power plants. If the power plants run clean and strong, the city thrives. Lights stay on, repairs happen fast, everything works. But if the power plants break down, brownouts start, systems fail, infrastructure collapses. That's aging. Fatigue, brain fog, slow metabolism, muscle loss, wrinkles. All signs that your cellular power plants aren't producing enough energy. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Mitochondria create energy using oxygen and nutrients to make ATP, your body's energy currency. But they're extremely sensitive to blood sugar spikes, toxins, nutrient deficiencies, oxidative stress damage accumulates, and output drops. And when mitochondrial output drops, everything slows down, including repair and regeneration. What the research shows is fascinating. Scientists at the Mayo Clinic and other longevity centers consistently report that mitochondrial function strongly predicts metabolic health, muscle preservation, and lifespan. People with better mitochondrial efficiency have lower rates of chronic disease and better aging outcomes. So again, we go upstream. We don't treat fatigue with caffeine. We feed the power plants. Here's your daily mitochondrial support protocol. First, eat nutrient-dense foods, not empty calories, because mitochondria require specific micronutrients to function. B vitamins, energy conversion, magnesium, ATP production, CoQ10, electron transport chain support, iron, oxygen delivery. Where do you get these naturally? Eggs, leafy greens, grass-fed meats, wild fish, beans and lentils, nuts and seeds, not protein bars or processed snacks, real food. Second, create mild metabolic stress. This is important. Mitochondria get stronger when challenged. That means light fasting, 12-14 hours overnight, walking after meals, resistance training, occasional cold exposure. These signals tell your body, build more mitochondria, increase capacity. It's called mitochondrial biogenesis, literally creating more energy factories. And third, avoid constant snacking, because constantly eating never lets your cells switch into repair mode. Remember, feeding builds energy, but short fasting periods trigger repair. Both are required for longevity. So when people say they just feel older, it's usually not age, It's energy production. Fix the mitochondria, and you often reverse the symptoms people blame on getting older. Next, we'll talk about another overlooked longevity organ, your liver, the metabolic control center that quietly determines how well you detox, burn fat, and regulate hormones. Now let's talk about an organ that almost nobody associates with aging. But in functional medicine, we look at it as the metabolic command center, your liver. And here's what's really going on inside your body. Every single thing you eat, drink, breathe, or absorb eventually passes through your liver. It decides, do we store this as fat or burn it for energy? Do we neutralize this toxin or let it circulate and damage cells? Do we balance hormones or allow estrogen, cortisol, and insulin to accumulate? So if your liver slows down, everything slows down. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your liver like the waste management and recycling plant for an entire city. If the trash gets picked up daily, everything stays clean. But if the garbage trucks stop running for a week, toxins pile up, inflammation rises, systems break. That's exactly what happens when the liver is overloaded. And today, most people's livers are overwhelmed constantly. Ultra-processed foods, excess sugar, alcohol, seed oils, environmental chemicals, all of this forces the liver into permanent damage control mode instead of repair and regeneration. And here's the consequence most people don't realize. When the liver gets congested, fat burning decreases, insulin resistance increases, hormones become imbalanced, inflammation rises, aging accelerates. In fact, researchers at the Cleveland Clinic note that non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is now one of the most common metabolic disorders, strongly linked with obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, all predictors of shorter lifespan. So again, we go to the root cause. Support the liver daily, and the whole system works better. Here's the simple protocol I teach patients. Think clean and support. First, eat bitter and cruciferous vegetables daily. These directly activate liver detox pathways. Broccoli, arugula, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, dandelion greens. These foods contain compounds like sulforaphane that help your liver neutralize toxins more efficiently. Second, hydrate aggressively. Water is literally how toxins leave the body. Aim for half your body weight in ounces per day as a baseline. Third, prioritize protein. Your liver needs amino acids to run phase 1 and phase 2 detox processes. Eggs, fish, legumes, clean meats, not low-protein dieting. And fourth, build daily fasting windows. 12 to 14 hours overnight gives your liver time to repair instead of constantly processing food. This is when autophagy, cellular cleanup, happens. And if this is making you rethink how simple daily habits affect longevity, consider subscribing. I share practical science-based tools like this every day to help you optimize your health naturally. Because when your liver is clean and efficient, fat loss gets easier, hormones balance, skin clears, energy stabilizes. It's like unclogging the main drain of your entire body. Now, there's one final piece, and it might surprise you. Even if you eat all the right foods, if you're missing this last factor, you still won't age well. Let's talk about nutrient density and muscle preservation, the foundation of staying strong and independent into your 80s and 90s. Now, here's the final piece of the puzzle, and this one changes how most people think about aging completely. Because when people think about living to 90 or 100, they usually focus on avoiding disease. Avoid heart disease, avoid diabetes, avoid cancer. But here's what the data actually shows. It's not just what you avoid, it's what you preserve. Specifically, muscle, strength, nutrient reserves. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of muscle like your retirement savings account. When you're young, you don't notice it much. But later in life, it's everything. Because muscle isn't just for movement. Muscle is your body's largest metabolic organ. It controls blood sugar disposal, insulin sensitivity, hormone balance, mitochondrial density, immune strength, fall prevention, and independence. And here's what's really happening inside your body. Starting around age 30, most people lose 3-8% of muscle per decade. This process, sarcopenia, accelerates after 50. That loss strongly predicts frailty, fractures, cognitive decline, and mortality. In other words, low muscle mass ages you faster than almost anything else. What the research shows is incredibly clear. Scientists at Tufts University studying aging populations have repeatedly found that higher protein intake combined with resistance exercise preserves lean mass and significantly improves longevity and metabolic outcomes in older adults. So again, we focus on root cause. If muscle protects metabolism, then we must feed and stimulate it daily. Here's the simple, practical protocol. First, prioritize protein at every meal. Most people drastically undereat protein. Aim for roughly 30-40 grams per meal, or about 0.71 gram per pound of goal body weight daily. Simple food sources: eggs, wild fish, Greek yogurt, lentils, grass-fed beef, collagen, rich bone broth, not protein shakes alone, real whole foods. Second, lift something heavy 3-4 times per week. Doesn't need to be complicated. Body weight squats, resistance bands, dumbbells. Because here's the physiology. Muscle only stays if you give your body a reason to keep it. Strength training sends that signal. It literally tells your hormones, stay young, stay strong, repair tissue. Third, focus on micronutrients, not just macros. Longevity isn't about calories. It's about density. Magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, antioxidants. That's why whole foods beat processed diet foods every time. Because real food carries information your body recognizes. And when you consistently eat nutrient-dense meals, you build resilience. And resilience is what aging well actually looks like. So now we've covered all 6 core pillars. Next, let's bring everything together and give you a clear, simple blueprint you can start today without overcomplicating your life. So if we step back and look at everything we just covered, you'll notice something really important. Living longer isn't about some exotic superfood. It's not a miracle supplement. And it's definitely not starving yourself or chasing the latest trend. Longevity is surprisingly simple, but it's biological. It's about giving your body the right signals every single day. Because here's what's really going on inside your body. Every meal is either pushing you toward inflammation or repair, fat storage or metabolic flexibility, cell damage or regeneration. And the foods we talked about today, they consistently send one clear message: maintain, protect, rebuild. Let's quickly recap the physiology, like we're reviewing the whiteboard together. First, stabilize insulin, because blood sugar swings age you faster than almost anything else. Second, lower inflammation daily, because chronic inflammation is cellular rust. Third, feed your gut bacteria, because your microbiome controls metabolism upstream. Fourth, support your mitochondria, because energy production equals youth. Fifth, protect your liver, because detox and hormone balance determine how well everything runs. And sixth, preserve muscle and nutrient density, because strength is your longevity insurance policy. Notice what all of these have in common. They're not extreme. They're not complicated. They're just daily inputs: beans, leafy greens, fermented foods, healthy fats, protein, colorful plants, simple foods. But eaten consistently, they completely change your biology. Let me give you a practical way to think about this. If someone asked me, okay, just tell me what to eat every day to age well, it would look like this: a big plate of vegetables, a quality protein source, healthy fats like olive oil or nuts, fiber-rich carbs like beans or lentils, something fermented, plenty of water, and a 12 to 14-hour overnight fasting window. That's it. No perfection, no extremes, just repetition. Because health isn't built by heroic effort, it's built by boring consistency. And here's your challenge. Don't try to change everything at once. Pick one of these today. Maybe you add leafy greens to lunch. Maybe you walk after dinner. Maybe you add protein to breakfast. Then track how you feel. Energy, focus, sleep, cravings. Your body gives feedback fast. When you support it, it responds. And if this gave you clarity, if you prefer science over hype and practical tools over trends, like the video and subscribe to, join others optimizing their health naturally. Because you don't need to fear aging, you just need to understand it. And once you work with your physiology instead of against it, living to 90, 100, even beyond, stops feeling like luck and starts feeling like a plan.